Ever Flop, a podcast for the best and worst historical fiction has to offer. I'm your host, Erin.
And I'm Grace, and each week we'll be reading a different historical fiction book to see if they're a 5 or a flop.
Our theme for season 2 is Booktok and Bestsellers, and what are we reading this week? Because it is 100% a Grace book.
We are reading one of my favorites, The Other Boleyn Girl by Philippa Gregory.
This one, I'll just say it now. I loved it. Did I think it was good? Absolutely not.
Okay, so I feel like I might as well say this now at the top. I was going to work it in somewhere later. When I was talking to my mom about the Bridgerton episode after she listened to it, she texted me and she said, you guys need to have another category. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, you have 5, flop, and fine.
Okay.
She's like, you need to add fun.
Oh,
and I was like,
I love it.
Yeah, well, because that was exactly what we got out of Bridgerton. We were like, is it that great? No. Did we have a blast? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's this one.
Same for this. Okay, but let's not get too into it. How was your week?
My week has been fine. You know, kind of mid. Work's been okay. Not bad. We started Lost, which is a personal favorite of both me and Grace's.
Yeah, I'm so on this train.
Santiago is very into it so far, which I knew he would be because it's like the most batshit show there is.
Absolutely.
Of course he would love it.
And also, one of my favorite things about Santiago, I feel like that we have in common, is we both have a very developed sense of childlike wonder.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So when crazy shit starts happening, he will give me the reaction that I desire.
Oh, this is not a spoiler because Lost came out in 2006. But we just passed the episode where you find out that Locke had been in a wheelchair. Oh,
that's one of the best ones.
By that one. That was a good one.
Ooh,
and we're in the early seasons, which I don't think Lost falls off. I know that can be a mixed opinion, but I do hold that the first 2 or 3 seasons are the best. They're my personal favorites.
I agree. You can definitely see, specifically in season 6 and then maybe also in 5, there is a little dip in quality, but I don't think it's jumping the shark. It's not a Glee season 4 situation.
I agree. I want to have a Lost podcast.
We'll start that next.
Once this one falls off.
Yeah.
All right. What's up with you?
We made our triumphant return to trivia this week.
Oh, because y'all haven't been in a while.
Well, I say triumphant return, but that's strictly because it's trivia that happens every 2 weeks on Monday. And then last 2-week Monday, it was Memorial Day.
Oh,
so it was simply canceled one time. So it was actually a very dramatic week for trivia. There were lots of highs and lows. The high was that we got 3rd place and we won a t-shirt.
Okay.
Yes, and we won
the communal t-shirt that does have to be passed around between the 4 of them.
Yes, to keep things equal. But also we won a tiebreaker for 3rd place, so it was very dramatic.
Okay. What, do you remember the question?
The question was, the trivia master's name is Kyle, and the question was, what is Kyle's favorite number? And we wrote down a number between 1 and 100. I wrote down my favorite number, and it was closer than the one that the other girl wrote down. Oh, hell
yeah. Okay, so not book related, but okay.
It was not. I was expecting it to be book related, but it wasn't. But the downer was...
Imagine it was, what's the name of Shakespeare's son?
Oh my God. I keep waiting. That man asked 2 questions about love in the time of cholera in one day once.
Oh my God.
And I hadn't started it yet. It was the next pod book on my list to read.
Of course.
And now it'll never come up again. But
Absolutely
anyway.
Not.
But the fall of trivia was that they took our favorite sandwich off the menu.
They did? Oh my God. They get the Cuban sandwich every single week.
Because here's the thing about the
every single other week.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about the trivia. We go there for the trivia. The food is not worthy of going there twice a month. It's not bad, but it's just very 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
And there are
there
are a couple things that we like to eat there that are stellar. So every single time we're there, at least one of us gets the Cubano. And now there is no more Cubano. And it's just very sad.
That is a devastating blow.
And we even told our waiter, who's our best friend, because we have the same waiter every time, because they only have one, I think, for whatever reason.
And trivia gets crazy.
Yeah, that guy must make so much in tips, because we tip him really well because he's our best friend. But we were we are so sad about the Cubano. And he was me too. And I said, if you told the managers that we're all sad about it, would it do anything? And he basically was no.
Yeah, I worked in a restaurant. The answer is no, but...
So it's okay, fine. If they're supplier for whatever meat they put on the Cubano went kaput, I get it, but I'm still sad.
Oh my God.
Anyway, are you reading anything between your pod editing and Lost watching?
I can't remember if I talked about this book on a previous episode of the pod, but I don't think I did. I think it was just a personal conversation we had.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk about it now. I revisited another of our pod authors.
Shocker.
With Lady Tan's Circle of Women by Lisa C. And much like the other 2 books I've now read by her, this is the 3rd one. It is about a friendship between 2 women of social standings, and they have miscommunication issues.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And she knocked it out of the park again. This one, I will say, this was the first 4.5 star. She's gotten solid 5 so far. However, this was kind of circumstantial because I was reading it on the Metro, which I've started in my old age of almost 26. I've started to get motion sick on the Metro when I read. And then it was a section, one of her lovely foot binding sections, immediately into a giving birth section. So I did black out on the Metro on my commute to work.
That's worthy of -0.5 point, I think.
Yeah, so it's, circumstantial, which is okay. There's at least one more book this season that's going to have a circumstantial rating impact, much like The Luminaries. So it happens, but overall, really good book. I recommend it.
Okay. So yeah, we stan Lisa C on this podcast, and actually Lady Tan's Circle of Friends came out.
Circle of Women.
Lady Tan's Circle of Women came out a year or two ago.
We're not friends with men here.
No, really those two words can be interchangeable then. But the paperback just came out. So any of our listeners who are interested in reading that book can go out and get the paperback.
I got the paperback at a thrift store, which is great because I hate reading hardcover books. I don't know if I've talked about that, but I hate how it feels in my hand when I'm trying to read in the bathtub.
No, we talked about mass markets before for the
they're
same
too
reason.
Tiny for me. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's not comfortable for me to hold my reading experience, it's impacted.
Goes down.
What are you reading?
Well, this was a quick turnaround for me because when I started our little script doc, I created the one that we're using this week.
I started it like 4 weeks ago too. I kept canceling this recording session.
I think I only canceled it once.
I think you canceled it once. I think once was mutual and once was me.
Oh, I thought it just only happened one time.
We moved it twice, I know.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I wrote down the book that I was reading at the time, which was The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, which just came out, which I did not finish at the 50-page mark.
Oof.
So
at least you called it early.
I'm not gonna, and maybe it wasn't even bad. I just couldn't get into it. I've never read Leigh Bardugo before, and I was kind of excited to get into it because this seemed like more of my type of thing than normal. She wrote Shadow and Bone, Six of Crows, very fantasy.
Oh, okay. I was wondering I knew her name somewhere.
Yeah, and I've never read her before, but this newest book is kind of historical fantasy. It's set during the Spanish Inquisition.
Oh.
So I was all over that premise, but it didn't grab me. So I unfortunately have put that down.
That's okay. I mean, it happens. We all have a DNF.
I know. But let's get into a book that I liked better than that, which is The Other Boleyn Girl.
I loved this book. Please hit us with a synopsis.
Okay. For those of you who have never heard of it, which I feel like this one has a pretty wide reach.
I remember hearing about this one when I was pretty young. Yeah. Not that I had read it before, but...
When Mary Boleyn comes to court as an innocent girl of 14, she catches the eye of the handsome and charming Henry VIII. Dazzled by the king, Mary falls in love with both her golden prince and her growing role as unofficial queen. However, she soon realizes just how much she is a pawn in her family's ambitious plots as the king's interest begins to wane, and soon she is forced to step aside for her best friend and rival, her sister, Anne.
I wouldn't really call them best friends.
I might, because Mary doesn't really have any other friends.
Okay, yeah.
With her own destiny suddenly unknown, Mary realizes that she must defy her family and take fate into her own hands. With more than 1 million copies in print and adapted for the big screen, The Other Boleyn Girl is a riveting historical drama. It brings to light a woman of extraordinary determination and desire who lived at the heart of the most exciting and glamorous court in Europe and survived a treacherous political landscape by following her heart.
That makes it seem like she's a much more strong-headed, fearless character than she was.
Yeah. Also, it kind of does give her only crime was to be an independent woman.
It is giving that, yeah.
However, I did like the book, and I enjoy Mary well enough as a central character.
I do feel like Mary's only crime was being an independent woman, in a sense.
Because the man was trying to keep her down.
Exactly.
All right, real quick, before we get into the book, I have a few of my thoughts on Philippa Gregory. A lot of this I'm going to save for the historical accuracy section later.
Okay.
Because unusually, I have a lot to say there.
Okay.
So...
This is Grace's, the Tudor era is her era of knowledge.
When we're talking about Roman Empire, this is me. I read this book for the first time, in middle school, I
don't know if you should have been reading this in middle school.
Well, I did, so you can take that up with whoever gave it to me. And it was fine. I did not feel scarred by that, but I did read this book in middle school, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, Philippa Gregory. She is an English historian. She has a doctorate in 18th century literature. And when she was working on that degree, she published her first book, period, which is a historical fiction novel called Whiteacre. And that became a smash success right away and kickstarted her writing career. She's very prolific. She has written 38 books.
Wow.
A handful of them are contemporary. A handful of them are children's young adult. But the bulk of her books, she has 15 in a series that the Other Boleyn Girl is part of.
Oh, now I got to read the entire goddamn series.
Yeah, well, it's extremely confusing. It's the Tudor and Plantagenet series.
Okay.
And each one is from the perspective of a historical female. So obviously this one is Mary Boleyn. And they are listed in her website in order, like chronologically, but they aren't published that way.
Oh, okay.
So the Other Boleyn Girl technically is number 9, and it came out in 2001.
Okay.
This is definitely her most famous book.
Yeah.
I have read several of the others and enjoyed them. I have not touched any of the contemporaries, but I have read a couple of the historical but non-Tudor books. But I own several of these. Like, I've maybe like 6 of them. Like, I have read a lot of Philippa Gregory and had a good time doing so. In 2020, she was titled CBE, Commander of the British Empire, which is the highest level of title that you can be given below being a dame or a knight. So Philippa Gregory, CBE, PhD. That's not too bad. Maybe they go the other way around.
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
Maybe.
But
I feel like CBE is like a more... That's got to be like not
fewer people have that.
Not devaluing a PhD, but like, come on.
There are fewer CBEs than PhDs for sure. Anyway, The Other Boleyn Girl, of course, was famously adapted to film. And I did know that it starred Scarlett Johansson as Mary Boleyn and Natalie Portman as Anne Boleyn. But when I went to look up the movie, I did not realize how many other insanely famous actors it had in it that I don't think were insanely famous at the time, but they are now.
That is how you have to become famous, actually.
Exactly. It's exactly like how John Boyega was in the Half of a Yellow Sun movie when he was a child. But Benedict Cumberbatch, Eddie Redmayne, and Andrew Garfield are all in the Other Boleyn Girl movie.
Yeah, because they play like not even important characters.
Yeah, like Benedict Cumberbatch is like Mary Boleyn's husband. Andrew Garfield is like the court jester guy that gets hung for being gay with George Boleyn.
I had the movie cover book. I didn't fucking know that was Natalie Portman on it until I'm seeing the movie poster now because, as usual, I'm on IMDb.
Natalie Portman and Scarlett Johansson, famous owners of iPhone Face, so, you know.
Yeah.
But Philippa Gregory has most recently published a nonfiction book called Normal Women, which covers 900 years of history for non-rich British women. So I am interested in reading that. I have not yet because it is very long, but I am proud of her for putting that out.
So I have not read anything else by her. We do plan on watching the movie.
Yes.
That's like 99% sure going to be a bonus episode.
Yeah, because so many of our books for this season have been adapted, we're going to have to, I think, winnow down, especially because so many of them have been adapted to miniseries and not just like a film.
We don't have time.
No, absolutely not. But the Other Boleyn Girl is I think, going to be the centerpiece of our watch experience.
That's going to be the one and not just us, but the friends who we invite, they're going to want to watch that one the most.
Exactly. Because it's salacious. It'll be funny. It's full of famous people. We'll have a grand old time. And I haven't seen the movie before, actually.
Okay, neither have I.
Yeah, so that'll be great. And this is, I think, a more important disclaimer than we have given before, but our judgments are coming based on the book and the way that the characters are represented in it, and not necessarily their real-life counterparts. We'll get a little bit more into that later.
You know, I'll just jump right into that. Anne is evil in this book. She is evil.
And not only is she evil, she is an evil genius.
Oh my God. She just like moves the chess pieces around the board.
Yeah. Everyone, like, Anne is in control. She is never not in control at any time. There are several points in the book, and I want to get out in front of this right away and say the book is very long, almost unnecessarily so.
Oh, it's very unnecessarily so.
Not almost. You're right. It's over 600 pages. And several points later in the book, when it starts, Mary's 14, so you can be forgiving of a lot. But later you're like, Mary, you need to catch up. You need to get on Anne's level.
Yeah,
she's continually surprised by Anne doing evil things. And it's like, girl, at this point, if you don't know, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Like, that's on you for not picking up on it.
I didn't, the entire time I was reading this until I did like my own little research at the end. I did not realize Mary Boleyn was a real person. Mm-hmm. So because of that, I very much did not judge her based on the real historical figure because I did not know she existed.
Well, there's really, frankly, not a lot to go on for who Mary Boleyn was, like, as a person. Where the real conjecture is coming in is, to a lesser extent, George, but to a much greater extent, Anne Boleyn.
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously there's a lot in the historical record about her, but only for so much. Like, again, I feel like I keep jumping ahead to all the things I want to say. But, like, we don't even really know what year Anne Boleyn was born.
Yeah.
So...
All right, so let's get into the actual book itself then.
Yes. So it starts when Mary and Anne are reunited. Mary is married and living in England. Anne has been in France for several years. Anne returns home. That's our kickoff point. Mm-hmm. And the first, maybe third of the book covers Mary Boleyn's time as Henry VIII's mistress.
Yes. So basically, her scheming father and uncle notice that the king is interested in her. And they're like, you're going to send our family to power.
Exactly. She does, like, none of the work. She's not flirting with the king. She is just...
She doesn't even know how. Anne's, like, giving her advice on what to do.
Exactly.
She's just kind of, like, you know the brunette girl standing there emoji?
She is like that.
Yeah, that was her the entire time.
She's in his line of sight, and she is young and pretty. And at this point, Catherine of Aragon, who was the first wife of Henry VIII, is older, and her fertility is seemingly has waned.
And she has not had a son.
Da da da.
Big deal.
No, she has had Queen Mary, or Princess Mary, who will later become Mary I, Bloody Mary. But she hasn't been pregnant in a while. Whenever she does get pregnant, she miscarries. Henry VIII is having a lot of affairs and losing hope.
So Mary and Anne's family are like, could be a perfect chance for her to get pregnant with a son. And they basically get her husband to, like, agree to stand down.
Yeah, which was crazy.
That was weird to me. I'm like, I mean, I guess.
Their justification was if you have a bastard child by the king, he needs to know for a fact that it's his.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, fine, fair justification.
Yeah.
But the king already did have another bastard child, and they never fully explained how they were going to get around that. Like, because the other kid's older, but I guess they were just going to hope.
I think it was because Mary came, I think, like, the mother of that child came from, like, a bad, like, poor background.
I guess so.
And at least the Boleyns were, like, pretty high in society at this point.
They were. But Mary is not doing a lot of this work. She's kind of being puppeted by the rest of her family. But you can see not only is Anne jealous of all of the attention and power that Mary is getting that comes with being the king's mistress, but she is setting her sights higher. Mm-hmm. She doesn't want to just be a mistress and be gifted land. She wants independent titles. She wants for the king to set aside the queen and to make her queen. Yeah. Which we know did happen in real life. So at least, you know, you can say a lot of things about Anne Boleyn, but you can't say she wasn't a visionary.
It's true. It's true. But so my personal favorite part of when Mary and Henry were courting, they were measuring their hands, and she's literally just such a girl for that. You know, it brought me back to, like, middle school when everyone was like, oh my God, your hands are so much bigger than mine.
Well, like, they weren't really allowed to flirt, because if you were a girl and you flirted too hard, it made you a slut. Exactly. So all they could do is just be like, oh, you know, what a gift to be in the presence of my beloved king. Like, and then you can't just, like, give him your handkerchief. He has to ask for it.
Yeah.
But then, of course, when he's like, oh, I want to have sex with this 15-year-old girl, they were just like, great, we'll get your brother to escort you there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's how it was in a lot of ways.
I mean, yeah. The king asks, you don't say no.
He was, like, the worst, the king.
Yeah.
He was like this whiny teen the whole book is how he felt to me.
Yeah. Well, the crucial historical understanding for that especially is he was the second son. He wasn't supposed to be king. Mm-hmm. And his wife, Catherine, was married to his older brother, Arthur, who was supposed to be king. But only like 3 months after they got married, Arthur died of the sweat, which is a disease we don't have anymore. And then luckily Catherine was a smart girl and thinking on her feet, was like, it's okay because we never had sex, so I'll just marry your other son so you can just like recycle me being the queen again.
Oh, and
so they were like,
sure.
Yeah, like fine, great idea. Henry, because he wanted everything that his brother had because his brother was supposed to have all the power. Mm-hmm. So he did not have the emotional intelligence that you would think someone raised to be king might have. Like, not necessarily,
right.
It's not a guarantee.
Doesn't mean anything,
But, he did suck.
Yeah.
But he did not, like, the Boleyn family members also sucked, but they displayed intelligence at least.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you're going to be evil, at least do it for, like, put it to a purpose. Like Anne did. She was putting her evil to a purpose.
Exactly.
She wanted to be queen, and she got there. So, good for her.
But along the way, Mary winds up having, 2 kids with the king?
Yes. First a daughter and then a son. And actually, it's kind of hilarious how Anne gets him at least represented in the book. And I think this does bear up a little under the weight of historical scrutiny, that back then they had a belief that you couldn't have sex if you were pregnant. And then also there was a period of time after you had given birth where you couldn't have sex until you were like re-blessed in the church because you were like dirty up until then, which like works out in your favor because you're supposed to wait 6 weeks after giving birth before you have sex again. But during that time where she was like locked in a room for 3 months before giving birth is when Anne stole Henry, because he was like, well, I don't want to have sex with my crusty wife and I can't have sex with my mistress. So who am I supposed to have sex with?
Exactly.
And Anne Boleyn was like, I will seduce you. Yeah. She held him off. The reason that he married her and no one else is that she like kept refusing to sleep with him.
Yeah. She did, in the book it's depicted that she did a lot of other stuff, but
we don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, she learned, this was funny to me. She was like, I know tricks because I lived in France.
That made me laugh. And then Mary was like, this is how you give a blowjob.
That came stunningly late.
Oh, yeah.
In the like 600-page book, that was very late. About 2 mistresses.
Yeah.
Like, so the stuff they were doing must have been pretty tame before.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. But.
Well, and when I say they, I strictly mean Henry VIII, because let's talk about George Boleyn.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about their brother. And unfortunately, we do have to bring him up now.
He was crazy. He, in terms of his, like, personality, was, like, actually pretty neutral. He was kind of this middle ground between, like, Anne being an evil genius and Mary. I have written down here, Mary's main personality trait is normal.
Yeah, she's normal. She's, like, fine.
Yeah, kind of the way that we talked about, like, Marie Lore. She had, like, external things going on, but her personality was kind of like a blank canvas on which to be projected. Yeah. Mary Boleyn is kind of the same way.
Yeah, I would agree.
But George Boleyn, he has a lot going on. Not only is he sexually attracted to his sister, Anne, not Mary, he's also gay. He's 2 things.
He does have 2 personality traits. It's rare for some of these pod characters.
Gay and attracted to sister.
So maybe bisexual, please.
He had a difficult life.
He had it rough because none of those things were legal.
No. I mean, and one of them still isn't.
One of them, yeah.
So, no. And they also, a minor character in the book was George's wife, Jane.
Oh my God, she was the best character in the whole book.
Wouldn't you hate to be Jane and your husband is both gay and also in love with his sister? She had, like, she never did that much plot-wise, but everyone, like, all the Boleyns hated her and they were mean to her. But she would show up and drop the most amazing one-liners and leave. The one that I have written down is, you don't like to kiss women unless they are your sisters.
I think her point was to kind of drive home the incest thing.
Yeah.
Because it's from, like, an outside... Because I feel like if we're reading it modern day, and they're like, oh, they, like... He kissed his sister on the mouth, like, something like that. We might be like, oh,
okay, maybe in the 1600s, like, they did that.
Maybe, you know... So I think she kind of served that purpose as being like, hey, this shit's weird. It's weird for us, too.
As it goes, you get, in all aspects, you get more and more and more extreme. So at the beginning, you might just think, like, oh, George hangs out with his sisters too much. And then by the end... For example, Anne Boleyn goes to a witch so that she can conceive a child. And apparently what the witch tells her to do is have sex with her brother. Yeah. And then she later has a miscarriage. And the fetus clearly has some kind of physical deformity, which is what caused the miscarriage. And it's because of the witch. Yeah. Like, crazy stuff like that happens, which brings me to my main point, which is Philippa Gregory chose like all options here. She was not like, what do I want to say is true?
Everything's true.
Yeah, because famously, we haven't said it out loud, but pretty much everyone knows Anne Boleyn had her head chopped off. Henry VIII had her head chopped off. And legally, the reason that he did it is, like, of course, realistically, is because she couldn't give him a son.
Yeah.
But legally, she was convicted on grounds of adultery, of incest, and of witchcraft. So obviously, historians are like, well, those things probably didn't happen. And he just wanted to make something up so that he could chop her head off and get a new wife. And Philippa Gregory is like, you're right. He made up all of those things so that he could chop her head off and get a new wife. But also, they're all true. It's like, for me, it's the following your own logic thing. Like, when you encounter a piece of media where that's about the Salem witch trials, and the premise of it is that they actually were real witches, to me, it's like not following the logic to its own conclusion. Because then I'm like, okay, so if they were real witches, then you think it's correct that they were all executed. When really the lesson of the Salem witch trials is it was wrong that they were innocent people executed.
Exactly.
So you're like, there's a part in the, like, at the very end of the book, like before Anne is about to have her head chopped off, and also George, R.I.P. to George, and Mary is like, I can't believe, like, my sister is, like, fell victim to these treasonous lies. And it's like, Mary, you saw your brother kiss your sister on the lips, and also she told you she went to a witch.
Yeah,
like,
so it was like,
they're not lies because you have evidence that they're all true.
Mary was...
You can think your sister's a witch and not want her head to get chopped off, but, like, you know.
Mary was so funny to me. There was this whole point where she's like, I want to leave the court and go live in the country. And I'm like, same girl, I want to quit my job and live on a farm.
Yeah, honestly, the best part about the, like, progression of Mary is, first of all, her husband that she has in the beginning dies. So R.I.P. to him. He does not stick around.
And it was, like, right when he started being a dick to her, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, good timing that he got taken out. But then she marries this other guy who's poor. That's his thing.
They marry secretly.
Yes. So she marries for love, someone who's poor. And Anne marries the king and gets her head chopped off. So there's a lesson in that.
There is.
You know, marry for love. But, yeah, that as they further diverge and each path gets, like, more and more extreme. So, like, Mary leaves court and she gets custody of her children back and she has another baby, and Anne can't have children and dies. Like, the end of her book basically is the death
and
of Anne Boleyn.
You kind of watch Anne follow the same arc as Catherine in the beginning, where she's like the glorious queen, and then everyone kind of hates her, and she's like losing her sparkle and like becomes physically more dull.
Yeah. And it's the speed at which that happens is the thing that's stunning to people.
Yeah.
Because Catherine of Aragon was queen for 24 years, and Anne was queen for 6. And then there were 4 more wives after that.
And if you haven't seen the musical 6, we're going to see it when it comes to DC.
Oh, I love 6. 6 is, you can identify just from the way that I am that I love 6.
Oh, yeah.
But I do.
As soon as you say Catherine of Aragon, I was like, oh, this is a sixth episode, huh? I've been, every time I get like the TikTok makeup tutorials for like the 6 wives, I stop and watch every single one. I can't even verbalize so much of what happened in this book because so much of it was just like batshit conversations.
Yeah, they were we talked earlier, I forget what book this came up in, but when you're reading like kind of a tacky historical fiction book about the Titanic, and there's a lot of dialogue that you only have from the future where it's like, the Titanic will never sink. I can't wait to get on the ship of dreams that will never sink.
I don't know what we were talking about, but I remember this conversation.
Yeah. But it's the same thing with this. Like, Anne is saying, like, I would put my neck on the block to be queen, and being queen is, like, worth dying for, or whatever.
We're like, girl.
And it's like, okay, Philippa, like, we know Anne Boleyn got her head chopped off.
Imagine going into this book not knowing that, though.
No, that would be insane.
I feel like it was so rushed, and I see you have this in your notes at the end. The pacing at the end goes, like, and it kind of worked for me, but also it was, like, I could barely even tell when she was getting executed.
No, I know. They're literally 1 page flip. On, like, the front of the page, Anne is, like, going through her trial for treason. And the Boleyns are like, ugh, they're gonna, like, just send Anne and shut her up in, like, a nunnery for the rest of her life and, like, never let her come out. Like, won't that be so horrible? And then you flip the page, and she's getting her head chopped off.
And I'm sure that's realistic to what it felt like. Like, imagine being in the court, like, all of this going down.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what it felt like.
I mean, I guess, but, like, as a reader, I think there were so many choices in the pacing of this book that don't really bear out. Like, I also have written down here, there is a part where when Mary leaves court to go get her poor husband and was like, I will marry you. Like, I love you. I want to marry you. Like, they're not married yet. Mm-hmm. And it's like a long journey, like, on horse from rich town where she is to poor town where he is. And Philippa Gregory describes every time she stops and eats, like, everyone. And it was just like, it was like, you don't need that. I would like 10 more pages about Anne Boleyn getting executed, which is the point of the book. But I think part of the reason it's so long is because she knows exactly, like, she was like, you know, on December 12th of this year, they were at Greenwich Palace where they stayed for 10 days, and then they moved to Richmond Palace. And then on January 10th, like, all this stuff that I'm sure is correct, but it
felt like she wanted to put in there because she knew it.
Because she knew, yeah. And I don't think that this needs to be, like, cut in half or anything as a book. I think the building tension of it, where it's kind of like phase 1, Mary is mistress, phase 2, like Mary versus Anne, phase 3, like Anne's fall, I think that works very well. Yeah. Like, there is some character work here that I think has a little more nuance than I remembered, that I kind of was surprised by, because I do remember this book as being very soap opera. Mm-hmm. But I think that the dynamic between Mary and Anne works very well in this way where, like, they hate each other, but they depend on each other. Yeah. And the dynamic between Mary and Catherine is really interesting, too. Mm-hmm. Because Mary obviously betrays Queen Catherine, like, every single day.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she's sleeping with her husband, but even more than that, she's aiding and abetting the Boleyns in setting Catherine aside and taking away her rightful seat on the throne to give it to Anne. And Mary keeps apologizing to Catherine for not wanting to do these things. And finally, Catherine is like, well, you're doing them, so that makes no difference to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so you just need to stay away from me and get out of my life forever. And eventually she does, like, kind of disappear from the book, because in real life she gets shut up in a nunnery and dies. So, you know, wah wah. But
sad to be her.
Yeah.
This book was very heavy on the soap opera. Extremely. A lot of it was very dramatic.
And, like, to an extent that bears up in real life. Yeah. But it's played up, especially with people with George Boleyn and, like, characters like that are clearly kind of Flanderized.
Yeah.
Anything else, or should we move into historical accuracy?
It's hard to, I don't really want to go blow by blow through this book, because it's more of just, like, the sensation of it as a whole.
Yeah.
However, it did put my very vague past AP European history memories alight, which I had fun with.
Oh, yeah. Because the other thing about this book is, like, there are tinges of the Reformation. You barely get any content about it.
Oh, it, like, starts... Like, that's the stuff I wanted more about, because I like that stuff. I was a religion major. I love that stuff.
Like, seeping around the sides is the Reformation stuff. Like, at one point, the King of Spain, like, kidnaps the Pope, and you barely even hear about it, because it's just about, like, whether or not Henry VIII can get his divorce, and not, like, the literal Pope has been kidnapped.
I know. It was very funny. Yeah, but it's kind of crazy hearing, like, obviously this changed history in a huge way.
Oh, yeah.
But hearing about it from the perspectives of, oh my God, we want our family to be powerful and has to be on the throne. Like, it's really a funny perspective.
Yeah, because we're rooting for the bad guys.
Yeah.
In this book. Or at least, like, Mary is on the side of the bad guys, and she has ambivalent feelings about it. But she's like, well, these are my family, and there's not anything I'm going to do. I guess... Oh, go ahead.
No. Nothing.
Well, I guess my concluding, like, thought is I really do just love the idea of a book from the point of view of Mary Boleyn. I think it's a great idea. Not a lot of people have even tried to, like, rip it off or, like, replicate it. And this is a historical figure that people didn't really know about, and now they do because of this book, which
like
you can't
me.
Yeah, which you can't point to that frequently.
No.
So for that, I say good on you, Philippa. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I wish we had more to talk about in terms of, like, the literary sense. Like, I feel like I'm always talking about pacing, time jumps. I don't know. I think this book was just, I don't need to look into that kind of stuff, because I just enjoyed reading it. It's kind of like how how I love watching Desperate Housewives. Is it the best show ever? No. But do I like it? Am I having fun while I'm reading it?
Exactly.
Do I want to see what happens next? Yes, absolutely.
No one claims that this is a book of extremely high literary merit. And I think I've said before, like, this is serviceable writing. And I would say that about this. The writing is serviceable. We said the pacing is a little off. Like, the choice of what to focus on is off. The length is too much.
But who cares?
But in the end, does it matter that much? No. Because that's not really what the book's for.
I'm just here for a good time.
Exactly.
It's funny because the book we're talking about next week, I'll explain them, but I wish I had read them in different order because I needed something like light that didn't actually matter, you know?
We don't come across that many of those doing this podcast.
No,
like a book that's a good time.
So much sad shit.
Yeah.
But this was just fun. I enjoyed reading this.
The Other Boleyn Girl is just truly such a classic of the historical fiction genre.
It was like a soap opera in a book.
Yeah, completely.
It made me want to watch The Tudors, which I found out you can only stream on some really weird streaming service that I don't have.
I've never watched it either because I just can't. Like, I don't know. Like, I can't get a hold of it. Am I going to have to get a DVD from the library like it's 2012?
Oh my God, should we do that?
I mean, we're here, so we could just go upstairs and get one.
I'm going to look for it. I have a DVD player.
All right. Well, then there you go.
Okay. Let's get into the historical accuracy.
Okay. First off, let's go over.
I assume you're going to go off in this section.
I am going to pop off. Before I pop off really hard, let's go into a few basics. So a lot of this stuff, like I said before, about like dates and times, where they were, places, I can't really fact check that unless I'm looking, like, digging into primary sources myself. And that's not something I really have the scope to do at the moment.
We have full-time jobs.
Yeah. So at the moment, broadly, these things are true. If there are teeny little caveats into that,
it's fine.
That's not a big deal for me. So we're just going to cover a couple of things. This is one of the older time periods that we have read about, not the oldest, because it's clearly well after She Who Became the Sun's time, specifically.
And Song of Achilles.
And so, that we don't even need to get into. But there are still things that we just simply don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, all of this stuff about Mary's personality, 100% of that is conjecture.
Oh, yeah.
But even, like, at the time, we have made strides since Philippa Gregory came out with this book. At the time where she wrote it, she basically had to guess which Boleyn sister is older. In the book, it's Anne, but now there are people who actually think that Mary is older. So I don't know what to say, how that would reflect their personality. I don't know if birth order stuff was the same back then. I mean, for men, certainly, but for girls, I don't know if anyone cared.
Yeah.
Well, you know, but we think that Mary was the oldest, and then Anne, and then George. But again, we still don't know for sure, but that's what we think. Mm-hmm. So there is that. There also is this idea that we mentioned before of, in the book, they specifically make it clear that Mary's first husband is not to come near her when she is the king's mistress. And actually, that did not happen as far as we're aware. There are historians that think that the first child that Mary had was certainly the king's.
Okay.
But there are some that also think that her son was her husband's child.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, but they both carried the last name of her husband, which was Carey. So they were never publicly acknowledged as being Henry VIII's children. So she probably was sleeping with her husband for, you know, most of this time. Unfortunately, George Boleyn was not gay. That was one of the things he was executed for, but there is, like, basically no evidence for this.
Okay.
In the author's note to The Other Boleyn Girl, Philippa Gregory specifically calls out a book called The Rise and Fall of Anne Boleyn by Aretha Warnick, who is, I don't know if she is still employed by them, but she was a professor of history at Arizona State. Oh. And she was the first one to come out with this theory that George Boleyn was gay, and that her main two theories that are really controversial are, one, that George Boleyn was gay. Okay. And that he was sleeping with a bunch of people that were also gay at court, like high-up titled people. And that this was the plot point that was reflected in the book, that part of the reason that sparked Henry VIII's setting into motion the execution of Anne Boleyn was because she miscarried a male child that was deformed. Oh, and that was where the witchcraft thing came from. There is no record of those two things happening.
Oh, okay.
So Anne Boleyn did have the miscarriage. Yeah. But it was definitely not deformed as much as far as we know. Okay. That could have been possible. No one wrote it down. That's just a theory of Aretha Warnick's.
Wasn't it kind of... You would know more about this than me. Wasn't there kind of a thing after Anne Boleyn to, like, try and erase her? Like, they covered up her portraits.
That kind of happened with every new wife.
Okay. So things could have been intentionally not maintained.
Yeah, 100%. And especially just, like, women didn't have records kept for them.
Yeah.
And also, again, don't feel like I need to say this, there is no historical basis for the idea that Anne Boleyn actually did commit adultery or witchcraft.
Okay.
So the main controversy having to do with this book, and there is controversy surrounding this book in the historical community, comes from Philippa Gregory's depiction of Anne Boleyn specifically.
Okay.
And as an evil person.
Yeah.
And Philippa Gregory, I think this wouldn't be quite so bad if she didn't have the academic background that she does, and also if she didn't tout her books as being historically accurate.
Like citing your sources at the end, you know?
She's very loud about that. She's saying, like, the reason people read and love my books and that they're set apart from others is because of the research and the historical accuracy. And I don't doubt that she puts her back into research. Because, like we said, we had all these little details that were certainly, I'm sure that they were right.
Yeah.
Or that they were only minorly different and there was like a reason for them to be changed. But these big sweeping judgments about people's character and, for example, the fact that she does characterize George Boleyn as bisexual and Anne Boleyn as like this evil witch are, people think they're kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so there's a spectrum. I think this is funnier than I think it's funnier than it actually is. I have quotes here from 2 different people, both named Susan, that have differing opinions on Philippa Gregory. One is a cultural historian, Susan Bardo, and who she says that Philippa Gregory claiming that her books are accurate are, quote, is, quote, self-deceptive and self-promoting chutzpah.
Love that.
Yeah, which is a great pull quote. And then another from a historical fiction author who I've not read before named Susan Higginbotham. She says that she does not agree necessarily with most of the characterizations that Philippa Gregory chooses to make.
Okay.
However, she does think that they have at least a minimum historical basis.
Okay.
So she's like, you can justify it. And stuff that's this old, a lot of the time, you just have to justify it.
Yeah.
Like Philippa Gregory didn't make up necessarily that she thought Anne Boleyn was older than Mary. She was just doing her best there.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that. No one is calling her out on those types of things.
Yeah, of course.
But people are saying, you made Anne Boleyn into a straight up evil genius who was fucking her brother. And that is not okay. So, and I kind of fall in the middle on this. Like, obviously, I think she is not right. Like, there was an author who the publisher sent a copy of her book and said, like, will you please blurb this? And they were like, no. Like,
incredible.
I won't, on principle. But then I also think, like, it's just a little bit of fun, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. It's kind of like it goes into our disclaimer. Like, at the end of the day, these are fictional interpretations. And I do think these authors have some responsibility to be correct in their portrayal. But at the same time...
Is that going to happen with everything? Is it going to prevent us from having fun?
And also, who's going to know exactly what Anne Boleyn was like, you know?
Exactly. So really all of it's guess. She could be super evil.
She could be.
Like, there are people who say, and this is me getting like kind of into vaguer terms and not having sources to cite, but there are people who are like, well, Anne Boleyn was really like a victim of the scheming of her family, like in the way that Mary Boleyn was in the book.
Yeah, which I was going to say kind of how Mary is.
Yeah, but I don't think that necessarily holds up because I just think from what she achieved, like, no one had ever done it before. I feel like there wasn't a way for her to get where she was without having some self-ambition.
I agree.
You know? So I think she's not completely a puppet, and I don't think she's completely an evil mastermind, and we're not going to know where in the middle she lands.
I think she's probably somewhere in the middle of how Anne and Mary are in the book.
Yeah.
She's probably somewhere right in the middle of that.
Yeah. And then there's also the question of, is it better for people to read this book and get like a fake idea of Mary and Anne Boleyn, or is it better that they have not heard of either of them?
Exactly.
You know? So lots of heavy philosophical questions in this week of the pod.
Which I was not expecting for this book. Can I bring up 2 historical things that I found when I was doing my research afterwards?
Yes.
Because I thought Mary Boleyn was not a real person. So in the book, after Mary marries Mr. Poor, Anne banishes her and she's like exiled.
Yeah.
It's believed that and then she comes back to the court to like help her with pregnancies. It's believed that they never met again.
Really? Okay.
So that part of the book, and she might have said that in the afterword too. I don't remember.
I checked. It was not detailed,
okay.
So no.
Okay. Yeah. Then it was definitely what I read. It's believed that they did not meet again. afterwards. But I mean, Mary's the narrator. We need to have her on the ground.
Yeah. So I don't fault. I think that's a fine
I think
change.
that's fine. I don't think it doesn't change the outcome. But and then
No problem.
and then the other thing was that Henry was not the first royal that Mary was a mistress to. It's believed she also was a mistress in the French court to someone I don't remember his name.
Which is crazy. I think, was it the king? Was it King Francis or was it like a prince?
It was either the king or a prince.
It was high up. Yeah, and keep in mind that at the beginning of the book, Mary is 14. Like, they start them early.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, and
I want to adopt these girls and just give them a childhood.
I know. Well, specifically, like, this is the way that it was for rich people.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there's a conception amongst a lot of people that was like, wow, back in the Middle Ages, girls would get married when they were 11. And it's like only if you had a lot of money at stake. If you were poor, no one really cared.
Yeah.
You know, like you would get married like younger than we do now. But, you know, like maybe 17, like 18, like.
Just, arguably much better than like 11.
Yeah. I think if you get married at 18 and it's 1600, that's fine.
Yeah. You weren't going to live that long anyway.
Yeah. So, yeah, that is the Other Boleyn Girl.
Wow.
Let's hop right into our star calculator.
All right. We are judging on the categories of historical accuracy, originality, characters, prose, and vibes. And Grace, you did yours in advance, so I'll let you go first this week.
Unusually, I had some spare time on my hands.
Usually, Grace is doing it as I'm reading out the categories.
I am. Historical accuracy, I gave it a 3. I went back and forth a lot on whether to give this a 3 or a 2.
Okay.
And I think what pushed it over the top for 3 for me is the combined factor of the quality that I enjoy, which is excellent use of the history, in which case I think having a book centered on Mary Boleyn at all is a fabulous idea. Mm-hmm. And again, maybe because it was done so famously in this case, not a lot of people have done it since. But also that there were so many details that were correct that clearly showed a dedication to academic research. However, I can't give it above a 3 because this is a book where Anne Boleyn is an evil mastermind. So that's where I have settled. But I've decided, like, picturing it in my head, like, it can settle right in the middle there and not dip too low.
Yeah.
Originality, 4. For me, that mainly pivots on the choice of central character. But again, like, we're seeing history kind of from the evil side where, I don't know. I'm giving it a 4. I think it's a great idea. There's a reason that of all of Philippa Gregory's bestsellers, this is her most iconic one.
Yeah.
Characters, 4. They were crazy.
They were so fun.
Exactly. Prose, 3. Like I said, it's not really more than serviceable. And vibes, 5. Insane vibes.
So good.
Like, I am a Tudor history girl, and this is it. So my average for that is 3.8. I gave it a 3.75 on Storygraph. And really, like, the rating kind of reflects the literary quality, which, like I said, is not high. But that doesn't mean I didn't have a blast revisiting this book, because I had a blast.
So I gave it a 3 for historical accuracy. You said it a lot more eloquently than I would. But I think broad strokes, it's fine. I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
That's what I needed from it.
It's clearly not special, but whatever.
Yeah. Originality, I'm going to give it a 3. I feel like it's just maybe the content I consume. I consume so much about the Tudors. But at the same time, like, I didn't know Mary Boleyn was real. So it did have that spin. So I'm like, okay, well, evens out.
This is a popular time period and also kind of like a popular, like, style of historical fiction.
Yes. Characters, 4. Love them. Mary was probably my least favorite character, so I had to dock 1 for her being the narrator. Prose, 3. There were some really good, like, one-liners in there, and it did make me laugh at parts, so enjoyed that. Vibes, a 5, and I gave that a 3.6, and on Storygraph I gave it a 4, so about a fine, fun level.
Yeah, so we will give it an official rating of fine, but we will enter into history the new rating of fun, where this falls under that, is like 100%.
It's kind of like giving out a sticker for participation. That's how I feel about fun.
Or like miscongeniality.
Yeah, it's a fun rating. Like it was one of my most enjoyable reads and looking into of the pod so far.
Yeah, and I feel like we don't often rank books this similarly.
Yeah, like especially like the middle ground ones.
Yeah, I feel like if we come across one that's like straight 5s across the board, that's like whatever. But when we get into this kind of mid territory, I feel like we veer more, especially in which categories.
Oh, yeah. We were like almost the same in our categories.
Yeah, because we were all the same, except you gave originality a 3 and I gave it a 4.
Yeah.
So All right, that's the Other Boleyn Girl.
All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. And now I'm going to go read her other books and schedule a movie night.
Woo!
Next week, we're reading The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead,
who I also have some facts about from trivia.
Oh, okay, cool. And it's another Pulitzer Prize winner, so we're back on that trend as well. In the meantime, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at @5orFlop_pod. And make sure you're subscribed to our Storygraph Reading Challenge for Season 2.
If you have any books that you think we should be reading, don't forget to fill out the Google recommendation form in the bios of all of our social medias. And if you have any other general queries, you can email us at 5orFlopPodcast@gmail.com.
And until next time, friends, happy reading.
Bye.